G'day, Jared here from Investors Edge Real Estate. So, your tenant's in arrears, what do? It can be pretty scary because you've got your loan interest to pay, the tenant's stopped paying you, and there's a lot of rules and regulations around how to treat this, because if you don't do it right, your landlord insurance is not going to cover any gap or any shortfall later on. Very critical, and one of the key things that a lot of private landlords stuff up. So you've got to be looking at when the rent is due every week on that day, or where they're due and paid up to. When they fall even one day behind, you need to be jumping on the phone to them and preferably also sending them a text message and an email. We hit all three methods of communication so that we make sure that we get through to them, and we leave a very detailed message and send them a bit of background as to what are the ramifications going to be if they don't get their rent into us tomorrow. So at day 2, we repeat the same again. I know it sounds like we're hassling the tenant, but at this time, we've got to pull the tenant's rent in, or there could be real consequences moving forward. At this time, at day 2, we tell them that tomorrow we're going to issue them a breach if they do not get their rent in on time. And we expect to see a receipt to prove that, because it takes 1 to 2 days after a transfer is made for that to show up in anyone's bank account. So we need to see the receipt, we need to confirm it, and then we'll hold off on issuing the breach on day 3 if we've got that. But if no rent, no receipt at day 3, we're issuing a breach notice, and that gives the tenant 14 days, and we've obviously got to allow for postage if we're serving the notice that way. And at the end of that time, you need to be speaking with them throughout the period. You need to be finding out the real reasons as to why they might not be able to pay rent, giving them some support lines and other help to, there's a lot of community support and government support services out there if the tenant has fallen on hard times. And at that 14 days, you need to be making a decision whether to terminate. Now, if you don't terminate, the tenant will feel like you're not following through with what you should be, and your insurance is not also going to cover. So a termination is a 7-day termination, and after that is served, if the tenant is still not out, you have to apply it to court. Now that process can take a bit of time to get a court date, sometimes up to a month, and then when you go to the hearing, the tenant, if there's extenuating circumstances and they've fallen on really hard times, the judge may award longer time for them to move out. But once you get that vacant possession awarded, so we're at quite a ways along now, we're at 6 to 8 weeks, it can be a long time to not have money in your pocket and to have to pay your loan. So you really want to have a buffer aside to account for these times when it happens. Now, at that time, if they're still not out, you have to apply to get a bailiff around to remove them, and that can take 2 to 5 days to get the bailiff. It's an additional cost, and it would be covered by your landlord's insurance if you in fact had it. So it can be pretty tough to get a tenant out. That's why you've got to put so much emphasis around the beginning when they first fall into arrears, putting energy around it to make sure that they pay. That's what to do.